you have another chapter in the book that's titled "People Really Don't Want Relationships," and again, guys, I haven't gotten that far in the book yet, so I'm very curious as to the story behind that one as well.
Sure. I mean, the basis of that chapter, which I think is the last chapter in the book, was actually spelled out on the first page, which is that people enter into relationships because they want things from other people. And one way that they've discovered to get those things is by exchanging unequal goods of comparable value in relationship. But that generally means, technically, that people don't want relationships. They want the value that is transacted in those relationships. And entering into a relationship is just one way that people have discovered of getting that value. If those people find ways that are safer, cheaper, or easier to get the same value, they are going to prefer those ways to entering into relationships with men and women. And that's, I think, precisely what we're seeing. We are in the midst of a relationship crisis, Rich, as you know. Like in the last 10 years, the number of men and women who are getting married, entering into relationships, or even hooking up have dropped precipitously, in some cases to historically unprecedented lows. Like the marriage rate in America is the lowest it's ever been in recorded history, for instance. And I think that has to do with the fact that we now have some possibilities of getting what we want, or at least something very similar to it, more easily, more cheaply, and more safely elsewhere than dealing with the opposite sex. And that's precisely what is happening. And it's kind of rational. Like very few people are going to choose a more expensive, riskier, and more inaccessible solution over one that's safer, cheaper, and easier.
What are the, like in your practice itself, dealing with your clients, what are the biggest grievances that men express that are that much different from the ones that women are expressing? Like, what are the differences in the sexes there from where you're sitting?
It's going to sound bad, but a lot of men, they come to me and they really want to know what a woman wants. Like, help me figure out women. And I think on the whole, that's because they're good faith actors in relationships. They're like, okay, clearly I've had some issues attracting or maintaining relationships with women. Maybe if I get better at understanding what women really want and I can get better at giving it to them, maybe I can have more satisfying relationships with women in the future. When I talk to women, they're not concerned about what men want. They're concerned about how do I get what I want. Both men and women are trying to figure out how to give women
what they want. Interesting.
And that's, in my experience, the biggest difference between my consultations between men and women. I've never had a woman come to me and say, Orion, help me understand men so I can give them more of what they want, because I understand that could be the secret of a successful relationship, which it is. Like when two people are effortlessly and reciprocally getting their needs met, that's a good relationship. When people say, I love this, it's because they're getting a lot of what they want and a little of what they don't. And that love, that positive emotionality, in my opinion, isn't technically love. It's the satisfaction of being gratified. And that's generally what people are looking for when they enter into relationships.
Yeah, it's interesting when you sort of marinate on that soundbite for a bit, because it's like, guys are trying to give women what they want to attract and retain them, and women are trying to get what they want from guys, not that concerned with what guys want.
And when the women come to me and say, how can I get more of what I want? And I start to explain, well, you have to understand what men want. And by giving men more of what they want, you have the best chance of getting what you want.
How do they like that?
That's a tough sell. A lot of them are like, that's interesting. I don't really want to do that though.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard this. It was definitely in my youth, but it was a line, something along the soundbite of, you can get anything in the world that you want if you help as many people get what they want. And I think that guys definitely subscribe to that, especially when it comes to attracting and retaining women. But you're not always going to get that
work,
on the other
Rich.
side.
As you know, sometimes people can work very hard and be taken advantage of or taken for granted.
Yeah.
But absolutely, that's probably the best chance that you have of becoming successful, broadly defined, is being used by other people in a way that's important and necessary for their needs and desires. Is you have to allow yourself to be used. As a guy, we understand that. You can't expect to get paid if you're not used in terms of your time, your energy, and your skill set.
Mhm.
Expecting the paycheck without being used is absurd.
Yeah, you're very honest in that, especially when you break it down in your videos. Like I love the way that you break it down in the videos. It's just so clear and concise. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.